Okay, I have 2 dogs in the house, so we're gonna hope everything's quiet today. But I'm going to show you guys how to take your basic slopers and how to turn this into a torso foundation. So it's pretty simple. It takes 2 measurements for front and back body. So you're going to want to note your front hip depth and then also the back hip depth. And then front hip arc and back hip arc. And that'll help us draw a box to build from the actual body here itself. So I'm going to start with the front bodice. Let's just tape this in place. Okay, so knowing your front hip depth, you want to extend a line that matches the measurement on body, downward, completely parallel to the center front. I'm making this up because I'm on a mini scale. And then you want to do over for the front hip arc. But for this measurement, you want to add ease, so add a 1/2 inch. That'll be for the back as well. And then for that, square over. And then square back up. So this line that I'm drawing, this is completely parallel. The waist point here needs to meet to this line. So this is what has to match. Do not worry about this right now. So you just want to create kind of this box. So hip depth, hip arc, plus 1/2 for ease. Now I want to talk about slashing from the bust point over. So this may look kind of like a curved line, and that's okay. So we're coming from this point here. We do want it to be square to the center front, but we want our side dart to come down 2.5 inches from this underarm point. So let's just say it was here. Could it be perfectly squared out to this? Possibly. But in the off chance that it's not, know that that is okay for it to be a little bit different of an angle here. So this creates our slash line. And then just slash to the apex here. And then we can pivot down. So now that we're pivoting down, we want this portion of the waist from the actual bodice itself to meet the waist of what will be our torso foundation. So you can tape that in place, and that gives us that bust dart that we're so used to seeing. Scooch that bust point over by 1 inch. I'll just use a good sharp point. I'm going to use just a Sharpie to outline this. So we're 1 inch over. So here's our side bust dart. And I know right now what you're looking at is this primary dart here from the waist to the bust. We're going to change this completely so that we have 2 fish eyes just coming from the bust down into the waist and then to the hip. So we want to first bring this point down by 1 inch. You can go ahead and create a reference line. So then that will give us our bust point here. Now, I know that we have worked to get our waist measurement exact to our body. These darts are a standard size. What we will adjust to match our waist arc on body is going to come from our side seam here. So let's talk about darts first, and then we can adjust for the actual waist measurement that we need to match. So for the front, each dart will be a 1/2 inch wide, but I'm going to square down from here. So again, that's from this bust point down, and then 1/2 inch wide in total distance, so 1/4 inch each side to create that fisheye. So again, 1 inch down from standard point here, and then from the waist to the hip, it's a standard 3 inches down. And if we need to talk about shorter torso lengths in person, we can absolutely do that. So I'm just going to mark this here just so we have another reference point. Again, this reference is for darts only. And then just so you guys can get a good visual, I will mark this in Sharpie. Okay, so 3 inches standard, waist to hip, and then just 1 inch again here, and then 1/2 inch in total width. Now for spacing, we want the spacing to come from the center point here, so the center line. You can also mark it from tip to tip. So for front, the standard is 1 3/4 inches. So we're just gonna say the next center point will fall here. I'm gonna mark my center points for reference, bump it out 1/4 inch on each side. So again, we have that 1/2 inch wide dart. And let's just make a note here. So 1 3/4 inch between point and point. And then your 1/2 inch wide dart, 1/2 inch total width for this fisheye dart as well. And then considering your waist arc, begin measuring from center front to the dart, skip over the dart, measure the space in between, and then measure out from there. And then you'll want to mark your actual waist point, which then will give you the shaping you need at your waist to then bump back out to the hip. And mine might look a little funky because I'm just making up numbers for the 1/4 size sloper, but this will be your front bodice. But let's do the back. There's 2 ways you can do the back. I'm gonna show you the start for one of the methods, and it is to draw a slash line 2 inches in from waistline or side seam at the waistline here up to mid armhole. So you could go to the right under those notches. So this could be a slash line, but we want to do the same setup where we want to use our back hip depth to draw the line here and the back hip arc to give us our width, including that 1/2 inch of ease. So let's just prep that. Again, I am not drafting out anything formal. These measurements will be your own. So there's 2 ways to go about this. We actually want to add length into the back here. So we don't want this to match to this line here, even though we did for the center front. So one way to add length here is to match up the side seam to this horizontal line that runs across for the waist of the torso. And while doing that, you want to keep this line parallel to the center back line that we have here for the hip depth. Let's just pin this in place because I'm going to show you a couple methods. I like this method. It's very straightforward. The only reason for this slash line is just to adjust the armhole. So let me just give you a little eye for that real quick. So you can we want to give a little more width to the back, and that's just so you have more ease in the back, so you can move your arms around freely. But on a standard size, you would want to add a 1/2 inch width to the back. So just extend that up a bit more. And you want to change the shape of your armhole, so kind of bring it up. So one way to do that is to mark the 1/2 inch out and then bring this armhole point here, and then just redraft this armhole from what it was. So then that would give you your new armhole shape. The other way to do that is just to do like 1/2 inch out, maybe a 1/2 inch up. So a little more guessing rather than this slash and spread method. Neither is right, neither is wrong, so it's up to you what you choose to use. But from here, really our main points are already taken care of on the back. The biggest thing is this armhole. So now we want to give 2 fisheye darts here, which means this will become eliminated. Now our fisheye darts for the back, 1 inch is kind of that magic number, and that 1 inch needs to come down from, put it in green so it's easy to see, this new adjusted armhole. So it's going to be perpendicular to our center back, but 1 inch, set 1 inch down from our new armhole point. Just draw a dashed line here for a reference. This gives us fisheye dart placement. Here, the length in the front is a little less. We're going to do 5.5 inches on the back, so you'll see it hit a little bit lower, and that's from waistline. So let's just give a reference point here real quick. So again, just do 5.5 for the reference, and this is 1 inch down for the dart points here. For these, again, we're ignoring this, and we want to come in 3 1/4 at our waistline at the back, and that will mark our center point. Our back has a little more dip in it than our front, so rather than these were 1/2 inch total width, we want these to be 1 inch total width. So from this center point, you want to bump it out 1/2 inch on each side. And then draw up. I guess I should have given myself a little reference guide here. Draw down. Boom. And then spacing in between, we had 1 3/4 here. We want 2 1/4 here. Okay, but same rule of thumb. So now that we know our spacing between point to point, again, this is going to run perpendicular to our center. So mark those reference points. Bump it out. This is our back, so a 1/2 inch on either side to give us stay put. Okay, that gives us our fisheyes on the back. And then same rule here, match your waist arc that truly fits your body, and come up from this armhole point to whatever your new waist measurement may be. Again, that's starting from the center, jumping over the darts, measuring this little wedge here, and then adjusting outward from this dart point to the side. And that gives you your torso sloper. So 2 easy measurements, front body and back body, and you've got it made.